Now, when I say military takeover, not being like Lim Kit Siang, who's now under investigation, unfortunately, for saying things like the Sri Lanka burning the houses of the cabinet minister. I'm saying is that no true change, no lasting change can occur in this country unless we start the change by ourselves. Because a lot of the conflicts in this country, I see it is also it's about us. It's not just about certain individuals like Najib or you say Anwar, or you may say people like Mahathir. It's not that. And many people in civil society, my friends, they were not happy when I said that. They want blame politician. I said that is so easy. Okay, you are not blaming yourself, and I will tell you why. I will tell your fault, your weakness in causing these problems that we have in this country. Okay, so if we see the evidence that Malaysia will not change, it's very simple. You look at GE14, Pakatan Harapan won, and then the first issue was the ICERT issue. ICERT issue was just trying to have something equal for everybody, and then suddenly the Malays in social media, not just UMNO and PAS, okay, you cannot blame UMNO and PAS, because I saw many WhatsApp of my relatives who are teachers, who are head teachers, who are government workers, actually most of them, and also non-government workers, mostly lecturers, academic. They're all sending out false information in order to kill ICERT. The Rome Statute, you can see who was behind the Rome Statute. They were the Malay academics, a few of them who advised the royalty and said this is not good and stuff like that. So you can see that they are the ones that had instigated it. Then we have the Dongzhong Dawi issue, where the Dongzhong and the Chinese community were threatened, okay, by Gamis. And who is Gamis? Yeah, young people. When you have young people who are university educated, like old people in UMNO or in PAS, then we are in big trouble. We are in very, very big trouble because they come from the university, right? And then the Congress Marwah Melayu, which is held by many public universities. And this to me was the most damning thing that clinched the view that the academia, public universities are in the hands of racial bigots and racial extremists. I mean, what else can you say? Some say, no, that's not being fair. You know, they were talking about Malays. Come on. Malaysia is not Malays alone. Malaysia is one, Malaysia consists of 3 nations, the Sabah, Sarawak, and Semenanjung. I mean, if you were talking about Tanah Melayu alone, then maybe it is relevant. But it is not relevant when you can see young children having to cross a Sabah or Sarawak river on a tightrope or a raft. Come on, that's not fair. Okay, as a Muslim, that will not stand. I don't know which religion of Islam that you are supporting, but certainly not the one taught to me by Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so all narrative of Malays and Islam are the threat carried by middle and upper middle. These people went to universities, my friends and all that, but then they hold the most, bigoted views, and they are not open-minded simply because they don't read. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they suddenly found Islam because they are all very old. All my friends are 50s, 60s, and all afraid of dying and watching their friends, getting heart attacks. Now they are all very religious. In the younger days, they never talk about religion. They never talk about Islam in a manner of Islamic Reformation. I was part of the Islamic Reformation. I read 20 books on Islam in order to learn about Islamic Reformation. These people never read a single book. But then suddenly now they've gone to Hajj. Now they want to do zikr, prayers and all that and help only Muslim. They become the new force. You do not need UMNO or PAS. This middle class is going to bring down the nation to their ignorance. They are not bad. They are just, they're just learning about something, and then they think that's all there is to be learned because their ustaz are all very simple-minded who teach children the same thing. This is halal, this is haram, you must protect Islam, other people doesn't matter, our religion is right, everybody else is wrong, there are no two ways about it. These are the things you teach children. Okay? But then now, this curriculum is being taught to 55-year-old, 60-year-old, and they are now becoming a force to be reckoned with. Statements of non-Malays as musuh-musuh Islam by past leadership went without any hindrance from those who say that they are the protectors of Islam as well as the guardians of the Constitution. I waited, but none came. Right? So, so that shows how much a problem that we have. Now, civil society is also to be blamed, okay? Because I said I'm an academic. I cannot help but look at the balance of things. And if we are to really change, we need to identify our weakness and the things that we have done that is not going to bring any good result. All forums and discourses on human dignity, civil liberties, and progressive thinking in society are in English. They're not in BM, including this talk also. Okay, so I have resolved myself to change. Now my problem is that none of the Malay groups want to invite me to talk in Malay. Okay, so people like Patricia and people like the church and people like me, I enjoy myself meeting all these people, the Rotary clubs, but then I speak in English because I've been asked to speak in English. Okay, so we need to change that. All right. And if you remember Lee Kuan Yew, I read the book, The Singapore Story. You should read the book, Singapore Story, Part 1. I didn't read Part 2. He had to learn Mandarin. He was this Chinese educated in the West and speaking English very well, but then he needed the help of the Communist Chinese. And the Communist Chinese, first and foremost, is Mandarin. And so he had to learn it, even though he talked badly about in it and things like that, but later on he mastered it. And I am most impressed by the prime ministers of Singapore who can speak 3 languages when they deliver their speeches in their independence or in any formal occasion. These are good things that not all in Singapore are good, but those things are good. Now, civil society do not know the adab of engagement with Malay and Muslim personality and causes Malays to feel insulted. For instance, the tudung issue. And I can quote many issues. You've heard some of about the stewardess having to wear tudung and all that. Okay, I mean, that is an issue raised by certain religious members. But then when you have civil society saying this is a silly issue, there are so many other important issues. You use silly issue, Muslims, habislah. Okay. Now I also disagree with this issue. It's not even an issue for me. But then you need to treat it with respect, have an answer, have a response with respect. And if you don't do that, then susah lah. So all of the things, and when you deal with the personalities like Tok Guru, Hadi Awang, even though I supported him for 30 years now, I think he's a great threat to Malaysia. But we need to have the adab. If not, then other Muslims will see it as an insult to them also. Okay. Incompetent netizens still using social media on comment section to speak and insult. This is why I think that Malaysia Kini should switch off their comment section, and that's why I did not help Malaysia Kini when they were charged by the AG for some of the statements made by their subscribers or their the comment, because I believe like in Free Malaysia Today they don't let you comment for the news, and I think that's the way to do it. Now, Malaysia Kini also has a comment section where they edit the comment, and that one is okay, because you need to have that. If not, then you will be adding on to this issue of insult and things like that. Now, non-Islamic religious groups are not united in responding to Muslims betting and attacking on religious issues. So if some irresponsible Muslim group attack the church or the Christian, only the Christians seem to answer. We need a group of people who represents Malaysia, ourselves. Now, when PH1, I was appointed Majlis Keharmonian Rakyat, but we were only there for 4 or 5 months without ever doing anything. Then the Sheraton move came and we were all taken out. I think we should do this Majlis Keharmonian Rakyat ourselves. We select our own, maybe 20, And then this group comprising of the majority of faith and races, this will answer anything thrown at the LGBT, anything thrown at non-Muslim faith, anything thrown at the other cultures, like orang asli and things like that. This group should answer. Do not let a single group answer. It's like the wolf separating the weak one and then they attack them. It's very easy. No effective Malay group steer the Malays from a toxic Islamic. Now, what we have is G25. G25 is very good. Alhamdulillah, I'm very happy that they are there, but they are not Islamic. Even though they can talk about Islam in an intellectual sense, but all of them were not part of the Islamic Reformation group that was given the rise to Abim, Ikram, and the likes of myself, Mazli Malik, Anwar Ibrahim, and Osman Bakar, all these people who are not religious trained people, but they are the ones that actually fire up the Islamic Reformation and then came up. But then Islamic Reformation was hijacked by conservative and by this middle class who just now are only learning about Islam. They're supposed to learn about the progressive Islam. Then they learn about conservative Islam because they hire ustaz to come to their house, and ustaz are just people who have been trained. Now, when Mujahid Rawa was the Minister of Religious Affairs, I had said that first thing you have to do is train 200 ustaz overseas, doing multidisciplinary courses, and also letting them become minority in in countries where there are not many Muslims and no Muslims, so that they can come back. Only people with Islamic knowledge can change the Muslim into a more progressive and open outlook. Nobody else can. Now, of course, Zakir Naik can do that. Okay, I don't, he has the charisma or whatever. But the point here is that only Muslims can change Muslim. This one, other people cannot do anything. All right. So we need a group of Malays who are expert in Islam. I tried to form one, but it's not easy. All right. So what we have to have is these three groups. We now have the G25, but we need to have that Malaysian group, all the Malaysian. Then we need to have this Malay group who are Islamic inclined. Maybe they can join G25, or maybe they become a force unto themselves. That can be also. Other things that non-Malay newspapers do not have a Malay section. So always Malays feel that these non-Malay newspapers, they are hiding something. Okay, they are hiding something, and that's why these people want to talk in their own languages. So unless and until we have some of the news in all the languages, then especially Malay language, then it's okay. Civil society and Malaysians are too impatient for change, and that's what happened. They were shouting, especially to Mazli, to change the education. I said, no way. The education system is so big, and it's like a big ship to turn. It is very difficult. It's full of quagmires and minefields. Okay, so but we were very impatient to change, understandably. But change cannot be like that. You cannot sit there and say, change this. I want to change this. No. The days of Mahathir being full in power is gone. And Mahathir was there because there were no internet or no WhatsApp group. Okay, it took 20 years for the internet to bring down Barisan Nasional. It only took 2 years for the WhatsApp to bring down the PH government. Okay. Now, the present toxic narratives are this is what's happening. Now, please don't think of me saying that, let's say, the Malays are bad or evil. No, it's just a perspective that has been given to us. Same thing with the non-Malays also. They have been given a certain perspective through their communities, through their families and things like that. A lot of it not very critical in terms of analysis. So it's just being handed down and then being adopted. So the present toxic narrative is that Malaysia belongs only to one race, which is wrong. How can it be? Now, somebody very cleverly created the word Bumiputra. This is nonsense, you know. I mean, you actually just catering only to one race. Malaysia is 3 nations. Okay, you cannot talk about Melayu saja, right? Like Tajuddin, the new ambassador was always saying that Malaysia belongs to Malaysia. You know, no, Tajuddin. Semenanjung Melayu belongs to Malaysia one time. Okay, and we also have to debate what being a Malay is. Okay, because Burhanuddin Al-Helmi thought everybody should be Malay, Chinese, Indians, everybody. Okay, only one race deserves special privileges because this one race there are many. Because you include Bumiputra, but then you only, you know, maybe give to this particular race. Only one race can be the prime minister. Okay, so how long do we have to wait for our Obama? So this is another thing. The military and police are of one race. Well, whose fault was that? Now, some will say it is the Malays, but I will say that it is also us. The one dominant race is to ensure the presence of the royalty and thus the stability of the country. Always like that. The royalty depends on this race. Royalty depends on this race. Okay, and this thing is always being fed like that. So the one race deserves the bigger part of the pie, even though they don't work for it. Now, it's fine if you don't work for it because you are poor and you have inability to actually do a lot of things. So that would be okay to have the part of the pie, but not as a kind of a privilege. Now, religion is a big role now. Once upon a time, religion was just a cultural force, 1960s, 1970s. But after the Islamic Reformation of 1980, things have been different. I was part of the Reformation, and we were taught that Islam was good because Islam does not know anything about race. Because Islam abhors the idea of, working only for one particular race, Arab race, Malay race, doesn't matter. This is what PAS was saying. This was what Abim was saying. This was what Ikram was also saying. At that time, Ikram was another name. But then later on, something happened. UMNO caught on that race, religion was going to be, at first they were the one going against this during the Mahathir era, but then when it was shown that it was a force that was very strong, they adopted it and changed it into a conservative force. And at the same time, the tidal wave of middle class Malays who went overseas and now having positions in their work, and also they become very old, and so they now want to learn religion. They unfortunately adopted the conservative stand because there were no progressive voice. International Islamic University was supposed to be the progressive voice, but then it was also taken up by UMNO people during the imprisonment of Anwar Ibrahim. And Abim and Ikram, for some reason, perhaps they were under the special branch view, so they were perhaps also frightened that they might be taken out. But my suspicion is also that some of the new generation of Ikram and Abim are conservative. This is my unproven view because I have watched many issues which Abim and Ikram have not responded to. So today we have this spiritual values now that one religion one religion matters, only one religion is right, others are wrong. I mean, how can you live in life like that? You know, if your husband and wife only the husband is right, others are wrong. I think somebody is not maybe it's interrupting. Only one religion can use a special name for God, others cannot. Well, in some states can, some states cannot. You can control that. Only adherents of one religion are clean, others are filthy. You know, I'm sorry to have to say this, but this is how this religious people are teaching these people. Now, as I said, they don't mean any disrespect or harm, but then they were taught like this, okay? And they don't read enough books to actually have a bit more critical mind, okay? Because most of them are already sick with diabetes and all that for them to care. All they are doing is just to prepare. And when I look at the WhatsApp, I look every time they have their prayers, their du'as, their advice to help only that religion. I feel very sad. Okay. Adherents of this one religion must be united and help only its own members. No knowledge is allowed or shared concerning values or spirituality with others, so that it is not with the concept of equality. I have checked over 1,000 Friday sermons by several states, and I don't see this sharing of values. How can you live? How can you live in a country where you don't share the good things like respect for the all? All religion have that. Why can't we share? Like helping the poor. All religion have that. Why can't we share? So religion share, then you are saying that this religion is equal to others, and that is a no-no. All other religions are enemies of the one true religion. Even my son said that in his Ugama class, he was taught that all other religions are the enemies, and this is where it begins. Okay, so very uncritical. They have the basis in the Quranic verses, yes, but the Quranic verses is under the context of war at a certain time. But these ustaz use that Quranic verses for an eternal purpose, meaning forever and ever. Other people are the enemies. Now, I don't know about other religion. They actually teach like that, the way of this toxic narrative. I hope not. But certainly this religion that I am with teaches that. Not because they are bad people, but because this is how they think that religion should be taught. You know, Muslim must be clean, Muslims must be right, Muslims must be this, must be that. I mean, this is how it is being taught to children and now to adults. And we have education. Of course, our education was set up in the 1960s and 70s simply to fill up the industry. We need to train very quickly the architects, the engineers, the doctors, the lawyers, everything. So the curriculum is not catered to some critical thinking. The curriculum quickly put you in a box and say, this is it. Okay, once you complete the box, then it is complete. They're not going to... The university also did the same thing. Okay, so this is an engineering box. You finish this curriculum, then you get the engineering degree, and good luck being an engineer. That's it. So they are unthinking worker slave. We should have stopped in the 1990s and then went on to a different curriculum that puts us in a more thinking manner. But then the politicians found that it's very, very nice to have unthinking people so that they can play around with a lot of issues. And so the education goes on and on, being what I call a template. You just follow this template, and then when you get an A, then it is complete. But in fact, education is not like that. Okay, in university, I said university do not have answers; they only have questions. So if you can have questions, then you are thinking. Okay, no, if you can answer all the questions, then you get an A plus, and you get a first class degree. This is not what university is supposed to be. Okay, so I have a lot of arguments with my colleagues on this issue. So this is the uselessness of education that we have to deal with. Now, how do we go forward after listening to all this? Now, we must formulate new historical narrative, of which I have done, and I think others can help me to do that also. Formulate new spiritual values of nation building, which I have also written about, and we will talk about it. Rethink education into a critical construct, and then mobilize private universities, private schools, houses of worship to re-educate the young. These are the agents of change. Create a people's fund from, with millionaires and billionaires for them to actually form an institute of democracy and nation, so that we could actually focus all the effort of changing the country into this this one particular entity. The young must be asked to penetrate all public institutions now fully controlled by one particular race. So that means our children must enter the public service. Okay. Now, of course, we may lament and say that okay, they will be discriminated and all that. Well, actually, okay they won't be taken up to be the top position, but they will have their pension. They will have a very nice life. In my university, non-Malays are professors. They are appointed. They're not being segregated or discriminated against. But they, of course, cannot be vice chancellors, which is a pity. But it's wrong. But then it's okay. I also was discriminated against because of my views. So I am now part of the minority. Actually, I'm no longer a majority. I am a minority. So some of you may say that you are second-class citizen. I have news. I am the class citizen. Okay. Some of you may be invited to public events by the government. I will never be invited. Okay, because of my views. So create a group of Malaysians from all ethnic groups. I said that already. Create, fund, and activate new political parties. Once we have the critical mass. The new historical narrative that I have written about, and then I will be talking about, just briefly, I will say that the narrative must create the idea that all races and ethnic groups contributed to the development of Malaysia, not focus only on one particular race. Okay, so now even I have a research group that is going on, that we are collecting all this so that we can call it complementary history. We don't want to argue and say this history is wrong, that history is wrong. No. You must understand the philosophy of history, then only you understand what I'm talking about. And I will talk about this in a later, because it involves the construct of history. We must have a narrative where all heritage of each race and communities are precious and valuable. Our dasar kebudayaan kebangsaan, I disagree with. Okay, it was created post May 13 in haste, and a majority of one race talking about it. And I think we should change that. We should have all heritage to be precious, not just one particular heritage, and then other heritage can okay, which is not, to me, a very useful thing. All political parties contribute to the existence, sustainability, and progress of Malaysia. Okay. We must learn about the DAP, in school. If we don't learn in school, then we will have summer camps and teach that. All right. We are one with each other, or we are none at all. Malaysians, these are the narrative that we must keep up. Malaysians all share a historical consciousness of the values of the constitution of the country. We have very little knowledge about the value of the constitution, how it was formed, what was its original thought. Because now it has been tainted by so many things that Mahathir had done and other leaders in trying to stay in power. So we need to discover the root of our nation's constitution. The new spiritual values of the nation. Now, spiritual values is not just for religion alone, because religion now becomes more like an institution, and they are having enforcement powers. It's no longer a faith. Okay, so we need to relook at that. So I also read other books by Eckhart Tolle, Sadhguru, and all that, and I discovered that spiritual values are something that is across the divide of religion. Simple thing like all people need each other for help. We cannot live alone. If you find out everybody needs somebody to help, maybe they work with this person or work that person. But that is realization of that. Or I cannot live just by my own race only. I cannot live just my own family only. I really need the help of others, and this is important. It's a religious consciousness. All people have the precious blood of life to be shed. When you go to the hospital, you don't ask Indian or Chinese. It is either A or O or something else. B or negative, whatever it is. It's not like that. I have four packets of blood in my body. All right. Probably all the Indians and Chinese and Bajau are in my body. Perhaps the ulama will say I have a very filthy blood, because all those who eat pork, also the blood is inside me. So we also have organ transplant, matching or not, and this is across religious faith. I think the way God is trying to show us that, hey, you guys, even though you're different color, you still one, right? So all religion requires treating others with dignity, justice, and compassion, simply because we also want to be treated like that. So it's very simple. Many faiths are connected through history and society. All evil wars and killings are not by religion. We call it religious war. There are no such things as religious war. There are political wars, there are selfish wars, but there are no religious war. That I am convinced. If you are truly religious, you will not have war. Okay, you will not have war. If you say that you want to fight for your own religion against another religion, both of you are wrong. Okay, both of you are wrong. Even the Prophet Muhammad said, if you see two Muslims fighting, try to make peace between them, or else both of them will be in hellfire. Okay, because both of them are wrong. It doesn't matter what the issue is. All of us are of one family and brotherhood. We need to understand that. How do we understand? This is the subject of my next talk. How I develop these spiritual values. The new education agenda is simply that we education to emphasize the humility of learning, education to contain cognitive, practical, and immersive experience. All these are part of education. I'm in education, and then let's say we have all these spiritual values, we have all these things that has to be converted into education. How do we look at education now? Okay, we have Prof Tajuddin 6 values. What do? Oh, we memorize them. No, you don't memorize them. You discuss them. You find fault with them. You find fault with Prof Tajuddin. It's okay. That's what it's supposed to be. You don't say, oh, Prof Tajuddin, he's got white hair and he looks like a god, then we must accept. That's wrong. You cannot do that. Okay, this is a start. I propose something. It's a start. Okay. Now, finally, the new values must be taught through hundreds of houses of worship. I say again, more than 70 private universities. Now, if the universities accept the values and the narratives, you can do it with your students. None of the values are against anything that we have at the moment. It's just that they are hidden and they are not emphasized and they are not taught. So there is no conflict. Now, universities are always frightened. Oh, nanti we will get cancelled by the Ministry of Education. No lah. Okay, it's just that you yang tak boleh fikir. We hire vice chancellors who are former public university vice chancellors. Think like that. Okay, but lecturers, academics, we control. My former VC who passed away said, university is controlled by the professors, not by the vice chancellor. Okay? That's why I wrote the book, Why Listen to the Vice Chancellor? Because I'm an academic. Okay, I am the one who will lead the faculty and also learning and all that, not the vice chancellor. She or she is the manager. Okay? Several hundred private schools. We got all these schools, private universities, private schools that are not under the are not under the Ministry of Education. We can work that. Media entities that can choose how to publish their articles. We have hundreds of philanthropists that have much money that they can spend in their lifetime or 3 lifetimes. But then we can pull it to have something, and I will talk about that. How to have scholarship for Malays to study different civilization, scholarship for non-Malays to study Muslim and Malay civilization. We need to do that. If not, how are we going to change this country? And Chinese just study engineering and Malays will study Malay study, habislah. Tak boleh lah macam tu. Okay, I challenge MCA one time, said, you not want to change the country, why don't you make me your vice chancellor of Tar College, Okay, so the first Malay, the vice chancellor of University College, right? So these are the things that we need to change. Or the newspapers, they will have a board of director that is also a Malay. Okay, maybe 1 or 2. Right? You keep saying that, oh, others are like this, then you speak Chinese and all. Yeah, you can have it, but you have to also learn to speak Malay. Okay, so these are the things that we and the final slide I put speak Bahasa Malaysia. We need to learn that. I think we need to change the narrative, because it's so easy for other Malays to be hoodwinked by saying, these people, they talk a different language, and if we have many of this in the Bahasa Malaysia language, then this can turn lah. We have to have our children in the public service. As I said just now, we have to send the children to be teachers and nurses, and make sure that each child, they must have friends. If a child goes out of a Chinese school, no Malay friends, then it's a failure. You cannot change the country. Whose fault is it? Okay, it is the fault of us. How do you make your school interact with others? That is your management problem. Okay, but if you don't even have a seat, like I asked many of my students at UCSI, how many of you from vernacular Chinese school? Most of them are from vernacular Chinese school. Have any of you watched Upin Ipin or not? They said none of them watch Upin Ipin. Even your teachers don't ask you to watch Upin Ipin. Yeah, they don't ask. Okay, I have written a critical review of Upin Ipin. It's good, but then there are also some problems with it in terms of treating other races. But it is the Malay culture. The language is Malay, the culture is Malay. And have you ever watched Piramli movies? Langsung lah, tak ada, of course. Okay, so we need to have that. I'm speaking not because I'm a Malay. I'm sorry. Okay, I speak. You can see I can speak English very well. I can speak in English also. But the point here is that these others are the bigots and all that are the Malays. Most of them lah. We also have non-Malays who are bigots, but most that I've seen in this country are that. So we need to change the dance step, and then only we can have that. So all teachers from private schools and vernacular school must have a teacher exchange program. We exchange among ourselves lah. We don't involve the Ministry of Education. We don't have to go and see Razi or whoever it is at the top. We do ourselves lah. Okay, kenapa kita tak boleh buat? Okay, the private universities and private schools, they have mix of that. The vernacular schools, mostly they have one. Then we exchange lah. Okay, we do this. It's within our power. We don't care about what politicians say and all that. So this is basically the conclusion that I have, is that all of actions stated can be done by all citizens without having to fight any political wars. Okay, any practices or regulation. There's nothing against that. All of the actions are doable by all citizens, who must have the mantra that real change can only come to each and every one of us. A will to change and a direction to change to what is all that is needed. I have already given the two tools. Okay, the revolution to recondition Malaysia does not require any political change, but only through the actions of the rakyat in a peaceful and determined manner. Okay, it does not matter who wins the general election. All the rakyat are empowered to change this country by themselves, for themselves and their children. The fate of our country has always been with us. No one else matters. When the critical mass of social change has occurred, then and only then that the political change and institutional change will be permanent and meaningful. Now, I have heard Syed Saddiq speak, and I like what he says. And I think he's very brave Malay man. Say, even some of the things he says, I would not dare to say. But I'm afraid that even if we make him a very top leader, the civil institution will not change. Even he said himself, I can't even change my cabinet members. It's very difficult for me to change the civil institutions. That's how difficult it is. And that's how almost impossible it is. Okay, but we need to do these two things. We need to still participate in the political process and come out very strongly in GE15 to put our candidates, the one that we think are the best to serve us. But with 90% of our force must be to do this ourselves. We have to have a strategy for that, and then and only then, until Patricia can safely, always come to my house like in the 1970s, and I can go to her house and sleep there and eat there. Until this thing happen, then only we can really have real change. If not, anybody dekat atas tu, unless it's a military takeover, nothing will change. So with that, I like to end and after this respond to question and answer. Thank you very much for giving your time to listen to my thoughts on this matter.